President Biden turned 81 years old on Monday. He plans to celebrate in private with family later this week, a move that is likely to keep his age out of the spotlight, where it has not fared well for him in the polls. And that is one of the issues we want to discuss with CBS News chief election and campaign correspondent Robert Costa, who joins me now. Bob, if Joe Biden has two big challenges for his reelection, one is age and one is the economy, and this is not Republicans saying this, this is Democratic insiders, some of the most experienced Democratic campaign people in the business. At least with the economy, he can cite some statistics. Help me understand the challenges with getting around this age issue that keeps coming up.
On the economy, John, all of my sources close to President Biden on both the official side and the political side say he wants to talk about unemployment being at a near 50-year low and to get people to understand any inflationary pain through the prism of the data that's out there about the actual state of the economy. But when it comes to his age, it's not about what he says, but what he doesn't say, trying to pivot to other issues, to talk about what he's done on federal spending, his handling of foreign policy crises, and to, if it's brought up repeatedly, to refer to how the presumptive Republican nominee, Donald Trump, the former president, would be the oldest elected president should he win the White House in 2024. And so with Trump as the expected rival in the general election, age is hovering over something that concerns Democrats when they look at polls. But Biden isn't facing any real primary threat at this point other than Congressman Dean Phillips, who hasn't currently started to gain traction in any particular state.
Speaking of the former president, the Iowa caucuses are 8 weeks away. And this weekend in Iowa, former President Trump said basically the caucuses could, quote, send a great signal. And then maybe these people would say, OK, now it's over. There was a theory once that Iowa might be tough for Trump. He lost in 2016. The governor is supporting DeSantis. Trump doesn't agree with her 6-week abortion ban, but he's up 27 points in the most recent Des Moines Register poll. A, what happened in Iowa? Why was it not tough for him? And B, could he be right? Could the caucuses kind of be the end of it?
It could be the end of it for Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who has piled resources and efforts into Iowa with the expectation that it could give his campaign a jolt come early next year. But there is no such thing as a former nominee Mike Huckabee, a former nominee Ted Cruz, a former nominee Rick Santorum. All three gentlemen previously won Republican caucuses in Iowa, did not go on to win the nomination or the White House. But despite that history, Governor DeSantis and others in the race are looking at Iowa as a place where they could try to carve into Trump's coalition in some way, knowing that New Hampshire down the line and South Carolina are going to be much more difficult, especially with Ambassador Haley, the former ambassador there, really having her home state as a place where she could come back if she doesn't win or do well in the first two contests. But you're looking now at a race where Trump believes he could really effectively end the race in Iowa, because if you don't win Iowa or really have a performance there that gives you some momentum, you're going to have to survive until Super Tuesday and expect that Trump's likely to win or do very well in the coming states ahead of those.
I want to now switch. Third question, third topic, Bob. I want to switch to your expertise on January 6th, because you've done so much reporting on that. So following the release of this new January 6th footage, Senator Mike Lee of Utah made an erroneous claim about a federal agent that he picked out in one of the pictures. It was quickly debunked. The person he singled out was not a federal agent. They've been convicted. Lee had worked at one point in distancing himself from the election overturn period. What do you make of his embrace at this point of something that was so easily disprovable?
Senator Lee is someone who has continued to flow along with former President Trump's grip of the Republican Party, at least in terms of his ideological tilt. And January 6th was a moment where he raised questions about things like the Eastman memo to overturn the election. That's been documented in my reporting with Bob Woodward and by others. But since January 6th, Senator Lee has not gone down the path of former Congresswoman Liz Cheney of Wyoming. In fact, he's become someone who's really taken a different view on January 6th, playing down some of what the January 6th committee and federal investigators have found. And this issue is not going away. Come March, former President Trump is facing a trial here in Washington, D.C. on the federal level related to January 6th and his conduct in and around the Capitol attack. So this is all going to converge during the primary contests next year as the voters are deciding, and Trump could face a possible conviction right as he's about to potentially win the Republican nomination sometime next spring.
Robert Costa in Washington. Thank you so much, Bob.
Thank you, John.